Mr. Shin, your artificial heart is failing. If it's not replaced soon, you might not live past 3 months. The doctor's words echoed in Shun Henji's ears like a curse, the studio lights illuminating his pale face. The recording of the TV interview was about to begin. The lights suddenly dimmed, and a woman walked into the spotlight. Welcome today's guest, Ms. Chin Roland, CEO of the Chin Group. Shun Henji abruptly looked up. The moment he saw Chin Roland, his artificial heart skipped 2 beats. He hadn't expected to see his ex-wife again under these circumstances. On stage, she was radiant and elegant. Who would have guessed that 5 years ago, she was destitute and on the brink of death? Ms. Chin, your journey has been both inspiring and arduous. Is there anyone you'd like to thank in particular? After the host's question, Chin Roland paused for a moment, then spoke a few words to her. The next moment, the spotlight landed on Shun Henji. The person I'm most grateful to is my ex-husband. Thank you for abandoning me for money 5 years ago. It's because of you that I have everything I do today. Chin Roland curled her lip, her words icy, filled with long-suppressed resentment. She had spotted him in the audience earlier and deliberately planned this humiliation. Shun Henji froze, a tightness in his chest. After a few seconds, he took the microphone offered to him and, forcing a smile, said, "So, as a thank you gift, can my ex-wife give me 50,000?" Chin Roland was visibly taken aback, her face darkening. The audience erupted in an uproar, staring at Shun Henji with astonishment, contempt, and curiosity. How could anyone be so shameless? Abandoning his wife for money, and now publicly asking her for more. He felt exposed, as if stripped bare and left to be judged under the harsh sunlight. The atmosphere remained tense for a full minute before the staff escorted Shun Henji out of the studio. Outside, the forced smile froze on his face. He trembled as he touched the scar on his chest. He didn't regret donating his heart to Chin Roland 5 years ago. Memories surfaced, causing a pang of pain in his empty chest. He and Chin Roland had both been orphans. As a child, he was small and timid, often bullied. Chin Roland had always protected him, taught him how to fight back, and stood up for him. Growing up, it was only natural that they fell in love, married, and started a business together. Everything had been so perfect until 5 years ago. Chin Roland's business hit a rough patch, and she was diagnosed with acute heart disease, requiring a transplant. He worked 3 jobs a day, but his meager income couldn't cover the exorbitant medical expenses. They were desperate. A suitable heart donor couldn't be found, and Chin Roland's condition worsened day by day. She became despondent and withdrawn. Shun Henji secretly went for a compatibility test. Seeing the positive match, he couldn't contain his excitement. To save her, he chose deception. He made her believe that he was leaving her because she was poor, that he was heartless and mercenary. He successfully gave her his heart, giving her a second chance at life. He, on the other hand, was left with a cheap artificial heart, barely surviving. Now, the lifespan of this cheap artificial heart was nearing its end. A text message notification interrupted his thoughts. To his surprise, it was a transfer alert from Chin Roland. She had actually transferred him 50,000. A mix of emotions churned within him. After much contemplation, he composed himself and returned to work at the shop. Since receiving the artificial heart, he had been weak and unable to do strenuous work. The shop, owned by Sister Wanru, sold ties. Besides him, there was only one other salesperson. As soon as he returned, he heard a familiar voice. "This one looks nice." Shun Henji followed the sound and saw Chin Roland sitting on the sofa in the lobby. Her gaze was gentle, fixed on the man in front of her who was choosing a tie. What a model girlfriend, going shopping with her boyfriend right after her interview. Shun Henji instinctively turned to leave, but his arm was suddenly grabbed. Chin Roland was standing behind him. He turned to meet her cold eyes. She was even more beautiful than she had appeared on television, her complexion fairer. "Shun Henji, running away at the sight of your ex-wife? A guilty conscience?" Her eyes held long-suppressed resentment, her voice cold and mocking. "Long time no see." Shun Henji's lips barely moved. 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, ultimately transforming into meaningless pleasantries. Jean Roland narrowed her phoenix eyes, her gaze fixed on his face, lingering before becoming complex. He seemed to haven't been doing well these years, pale and thin. Long gone was his former vitality. Shinhenji pulled his arm free, reminding her, "Ex-wife, your boyfriend is waiting for you to pay the bill." Jean Roland frowned, a strange feeling rising in her heart. Her lips parted, about to speak, when her fiancé walked over. Gu Yanxian subtly blocked Jean Roland's view of Shinhenji. "You're Roland's ex-husband? It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Roland's fiancé, Gu Yanxian. Pleased to make your acquaintance." The word fiancé was particularly jarring. Shinhenji didn't respond. Gu Yanxian smiled, his eyes full of smugness. "Thank you for abandoning her back then. It gave me the opportunity to meet such a wonderful woman like Roland and become the happiest man alive." Shinhenji's throat tightened. He gave a pale smile. "You're welcome. By the way, Roland and I are getting engaged soon. I want a unique tie to match the suit Roland bought me. Ex-husband, could you help me pick one?" Gu Yanxian looked around, his eyes landing on the display window. "I think that one is quite special. Can I try it on?" Shinhenji followed Gu Yanxuan's gaze to the tie in the gift box in the window. He froze. It was unfinished, a design Jean Roland had personally created and made for him. They were poor back then and couldn't afford a wedding. To make it up to him, Jean Roland wanted to make him a unique tie. But an unexpected event occurred, and the tie remained unfinished. After he left, Jean Roland threw away everything related to him, including the half-made tie. Shinhenji had retrieved it from the trash, carefully cleaned it, and placed it in the window as a decoration. Hearing the man's request, Shinhenji's expression changed slightly. He declined, "I'm sorry, mister. Gu, that one is not for sale and it's unfinished." Gu Yanxuan's face fell. He went to Jean Roland's side, his voice full of feigned childishness. "Honey, I really like that special tie." The man's affected coquetry made Shinhenji shudder. Jean Roland's taste had become so peculiar. Jean Roland smiled indulgently. "Okay, we'll buy it for you, baby. Name your price." When Jean Roland looked at Shinhenji, the gentleness in her eyes was gone, replaced by a hint of mockery. Compared to money, a tie is nothing. She didn't recognize the tie, her expression indifferent. Shinhenji felt a pang of disappointment. The artificial heart in his chest seemed affected by his emotions, its rhythm becoming erratic. 50,000. Shinhenji held up 5 fingers. "Shinhenji, do you love money that much?" Jean Roland gasped, shocked and angry. The fury of being abandoned resurfaced, her gaze growing colder. "Yes, I do. Will CEO Jean offer more?" Shinhenji gave a shallow smile, meeting Jean Roland's gaze without flinching. Hearing this, Gu Yanxian quickly tugged on Jean Roland's arm. "Honey, it's too expensive. It's not worth it. Buy it." Jean Roland immediately wrote a check for 50,000 and threw it at Shinhenji's face. "Is that enough?" The check grazed Shinhenji's cheek and landed on the floor. Jean Roland's eyes darkened slightly. Shinhenji picked up the check with a smile. "Thank you, CEO Jean." Shinhenji took the tie from the window display box and handed it to Gu Yanxian. "Could you try it on for me, ex-husband?" Gu Yanxian spoke gently, but his eyes were filled with malice. Shinhenji nodded and took the tie, putting it around Gu Yanxuan's neck. "Ex-husband, this tie is yours, isn't it?" Gu Yanxuan's face suddenly changed. He had seen a picture of this tie at Jean Roland's house. Shinhenji didn't speak. A vicious look flashed across Gu Yanxuan's face. He shoved Shinhenji hard, sending him stumbling to the ground. The tie in his hand was ripped in two. Their positions blocked Jean Roland's view. She couldn't see what was happening, only hearing Gu Yanxian shout, "Mr. Shin, be careful." The next moment, Gu Yanxian fell on top of Shinhenji. "Ah!" Shinhenji groaned, his face pale, gasping for breath. Jean Roland hurried forward, instinctively looking at Shinhenji. Her gaze flickered, then she extended her hand to Gu Yanxian. A man like Shinhenji didn't deserve her help. "The floor is slippery. I lost my footing." Gu Yanxian smirked inwardly, pressing heavily on Shun Henji's chest as he got up. I think I've re-injured my leg. It really hurts. I'll take you to the hospital. Qin Roland's face was grim. She glanced coldly at Shin Henji and took Gu Yinchuan's arm. Ex-husband is also hurt. Gu Yinxian feigned concern, looking at Shin Henji. It has nothing to do with me. Qin Roland coldly dropped those 4 words and left with Gu Yinxian. Gu Yinxian walked beside her, looking back at Shin Henji with triumph and disdain in his eyes. Shin Henji lay on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. The artificial heart in his chest, compressed by the external force, trembled violently, as if it would stop working at any second. Ugh! The pain made Shin Henji break out in a cold sweat, his vision blurring. The moment Qin Roland's back disappeared, Shin Henji fell unconscious. Soon after, Shin Henji woke up in the hospital, surrounded by glaring white. He was stunned for a moment before he came to his senses. The artificial heart in his chest resumed beating, and he had been pulled back from the gates of hell once again. The doctor said that if he didn't want to die, he needed to replace the artificial heart as soon as possible. The technology was more mature than it had been 5 years ago, and the price was dozens of times higher. Even the most basic one cost 700,000. After hesitating again and again, Shin Henji decided to use the money Qin Roland had given him to replace his heart. He was just about to sign the surgical consent form when the police pushed open the door. Shin Henji, you are suspected of being involved in a fraud case. Please come with us. Gu Yinxian had reported him to the police, claiming that he had sold a tie for 500,000 and was suspected of fraud. Shin Henji didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At the police station, he argued with Gu Yinxian, demanding that he compensate him for the tie. In the end, the two reached an agreement. Shin Henji returned the check. Gu Yinxian compensated for the tie, and they apologized to each other and reconciled. As soon as they walked out of the police station, Gu Yinxian dropped his pretense. He stood in front of Shin Henji, his eyes full of malice. Ex-husband, is that enough of a lesson? Remember, I want you to stay away from her. Shin Henji pursed his lips. He had never intended to get close to Qin Roland. Okay. His nonchalant response made Gu Yinxian feel as if he had punched cotton, making him even more frustrated. Gu Yinchuan's young master temper instantly erupted, and he raised his hand to hit Shin Henji. I really hate your pretentious attitude. Shin Henji dodged to the side, and he missed, falling to the ground. Yinxian. Shin Henji only felt a flurry of light and shadow as Qin Roland rushed past like the wind and knelt beside Gu Yinxian. Wife, I'm fine. Gu Yinxian forced a smile, taking her arm. Her gaze was gentle, and she furrowed her brows with heartache. Turning to look at Shin Henji, her gaze instantly turned cold. Apologize. Shin Henji was dazed for a moment, as if he saw Qin Roland from back then. She stood with her hands on her hips, blocking him from those who bullied him, and said, Apologize to Yi. The same protection, the same love. But now the object was no longer him. His eyes stung, and he turned his head to the side. At this moment, he was somewhat glad that he didn't have a heart, so he didn't have to endure the heart-wrenching pain. Shin Henji knew that he couldn't leave without apologizing. Taking a deep breath, he still said, Mr. Gu, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have dodged and caused you to fall. Is that your attitude when you apologize? Qin Roland stared at him, his resilient and restrained appearance tugging at a certain chord in her heart. I'm apologizing because I don't want to cause trouble, not because I really did something wrong. If President Qin doesn't believe me, you can check the surveillance footage and see how Mr. Gu actually fell. Shin Henji pointed to the camera on the wall. Gu Yinchuan's expression changed slightly, and he quickly stood up from the ground. Wife, never mind, I'm fine. It's my fault too. I took it upon myself to get the 500,000 back and made ex-husband unhappy. I just thought your money didn't come from nowhere, and it shouldn't be wasted. Maybe I really did something wrong. I'll give ex-husband the money now. Gu Yinxian pretended to take out his phone and prepare to transfer the money. You didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't deserve my money. Qin Roland glanced at Shin Henji in a hurry, her hatred obvious. Then, that 500,000? Gu Yinxian reminded. Do we still want it back? Yes. Ex-husband, transfer or cash? Gu Yanxian stood next to Qin Ruolin, raising his eyebrows. He had spent a lot of that money on his hospitalization treatment this time, and he had originally planned to use it to replace his heart, but now there wasn't much left. But he still transferred the remaining money back to Qin Ruolin. I'll pay you back for the money I spent as soon as possible. Shen Henji didn't want to continue arguing with them and turned to leave. Qin Ruolin didn't stop him, her eyes burning as she watched his back, unable to look away for a long time. It wasn't until Gu Yanxian called her that she withdrew her gaze. Shen Henji dragged his tired body back to the Thai shop. Returning to the shop, he was completely exhausted. He sat on the sofa, hugging the torn tie. Like a soul that had been lost, he was motionless. He had never imagined that he would see Qin Ruolin again. The memories he had buried deep in his heart surged into his mind in an instant. Their love didn't have any grand or dramatic plots, but it was like a trickle of water, permeating every small detail of life. He had a weak stomach, so Qin Ruolin would make him stomach-soothing porridge every day. He would drink too much at social events and not have money for a taxi, so Qin Ruolin would accompany him on a 10-kilometer walk home. He was physically weak, so she would create an exercise plan and accompany him to do aerobic exercises every day. Knowing that he liked ties, she learned clothing design and manufacturing from scratch and made him a unique tie by hand. She remembered his tastes, his hobbies, and could tolerate all his bad habits. Now all that remained for him was hate. Qin Ruolin already had Gu Yanxian by her side. Her tenderness and favoritism were all given to Gu Yanxian. His eyes stinging, Shen Henji tightly pressed the tie to his chest, calling out that familiar name in his heart again and again. Ruolin. His heartbeat was out of rhythm, and he took medicine several times a night to relieve it. Early the next morning, he received a reminder from his lawyer. He owed Qin Ruolin money, and if he didn't pay it back overdue, she would sue him in court. Shen Henji took a deep breath. Qin Ruolin really hated him to the bone, not even giving him a chance to breathe. Qin Ruolin was urging him tightly, so Shen Henji had no choice but to contact an agency and find a temporary job as a bartender. As soon as Shen Henji arrived at his workplace, he was pulled into a room by several people. Ex-husband, what a coincidence, we meet again. Gu Yanxian sat in the center, a sinister smile on his face. Shen Henji's heart was alarmed, realizing that this was a trap, and he turned to leave. Two people suddenly reached out and grabbed him, pressing him in front of Gu Yanxian. Let go of me, an ungrateful scumbag. You even dared to show Ruolin the surveillance and expose me? Gu Yanxian stood up and slapped Shen Henji hard. Shen Henji was dizzy and staggered. He opened his mouth to explain. Gu Yanxian, you don't need to make things difficult for me. Qin Ruolin hates me to the bone and won't have any thoughts about me. Are you teaching me how to do things? Gu Yanxian pinched his chin. Today, I'll let you know the price of being presumptuous in front of me. Shen Henji was pushed to the ground, and Gu Yanxuan's men swarmed up and kicked him. He was weak and unable to resist, so he curled up on the ground with his head in his hands, letting the pain wash over him wave after wave. After a long time, Gu Yanxian was tired. Drag him out. Don't dirty my eyes. The pain in his body caused the artificial heart to malfunction. His chest was stuffy, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. He fell to the ground like a stray dog. Shen Henji lay for a long time, gradually regaining his strength, climbed up from the ground, and staggered away. Gu Yanxian happened to come out of the bar, and the two ran into each other. Shen Henji, you dare to appear in front of me. Gu Yanxuan's eyebrows were raised in anger, and he raised his hand to hit him. Shen Henji used all his strength to grab his wrist and punch him back. Gu Yanxian, don't go too far. If you dare to hit me again, don't blame me for being impolite. Shen Henji trembled all over, warning him in a stern voice. Before he could finish speaking, his wrist was grabbed by Qin Ruolin. Shen Henji, how dare you hit my fiancé? Qin Ruolin stared at him fiercely, as if she wanted to pierce him. Shen Henji's chest felt like a huge rock was pressing down on it, making it difficult to breathe, and his face became even paler. Wife, why are you here? Gu Yanxian pretended to be surprised, then explained to Qin Ruolin, don't blame ex-husband, it's my fault. I shouldn't have appeared in front of him. Qin Ruolin felt sorry for him, and suddenly threw Shun Henji away, pulling Gu Yinxian to her side. Shun Henji was weak, and he fell to the ground with a slight push. Qin Ruolin's eyes flickered, and she frowned. Was he deliberately falling? Faking a fall? Qin Ruolin withdrew her gaze and comforted Gu Yinxian. That tender and loving gaze stung Shun Henji's eyes, and he turned his head away, unwilling to look anymore. How many times did he hit you? Once, Gu Yinxian said aggrievedly. Hit him back 10 times. Qin Ruolin's eyes flickered. Gu Yinxian pretended to be panicked and shook his head, refusing. I can't bring myself to do it. You go. Qin Ruolin pointed to the bodyguard behind her, her eyes cold. Qin Ruolin, don't you want to ask why I hit him? Shun Henji bit his lip. His chest felt as if it was being pressed down hard, and a dense pain arose. What reason could you have other than money? Qin Ruolin sneered. She thought he was retaliating against Gu Yinxian for the money that had been taken back. Hearing this, Shun Henji covered his chest and lowered his eyes. How could he forget that in her eyes, he was an ungrateful villain who would do anything for money? He no longer defended himself, letting despair and sadness engulf him. This was the path he had chosen, and he would have to finish it even if he had to cry. The bodyguard pulled him up and punched him hard on his left cheek. His cheek was swollen high, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't bear it after only 2 punches, and his body was swaying. Qin Ruolin looked at him. Her heart inexplicably tightened, secretly clenched her fist, and a trace of reluctance flashed in her eyes. But soon, this trace of reluctance was suppressed by her. Wife, don't hit him, it's kind of scary. Gu Yinxian pleaded for Shun Henji. Qin Ruolin took his hand and agreed, but a trace of panic and unwillingness flashed in his eyes. All right. Qin Ruolin waved her hand to stop the bodyguard's actions, and then warned in a cold voice, Shun Henji, I don't want there to be a next time. Get out. Thank you, President Qin, for showing mercy. Shun Henji twitched the corner of his mouth, and his swollen cheeks suddenly twitched with pain. He staggered away. Shun Henji was bruised and swollen, and it took a whole week for the swelling to gradually subside. During this period, the lawyer kept urging him to pay back the money, presumably as a lesson Qin Ruolin was giving him. Shun Henji worked at the Thai shop during the day and found all kinds of part-time jobs at night. Once bitten, twice shy. When he received a job at a bar again, Shun Henji hesitated. But seeing the salary of 300 an hour, he decided to take it. The roar of the bar resonated with his artificial heart, and he felt very uncomfortable. He was breathing rapidly, his steps were unsteady, and a wave of dizziness hit him. He swayed and bumped into the person in front of him. Sorry. Shun Henji apologized quickly. In the next moment, he was blocked by that person. Is that all? Shun Henji looked up and saw a middle-aged, fat, bejeweled woman, her eyes looking at him greasy and lewd. I'm sorry. Shun Henji apologized again. She deliberately made things difficult, refusing to let it go. An apology must be sincere. Either pay money or sleep with me. Get out of the way, or I'll call the police. Shun Henji pretended to be calm and took out his phone to deter the other party. That person snatched the phone and threw it on the ground, grabbing Shun Henji's wrist. Young man, is this your first time in a place like this? Pretending to be pure in a place like this, bah. Pay money or sleep with me. Choose quickly. Shun Henji was shocked. Just as he was about to run, 2 men came out from behind the fat woman and dragged him into a corner. He was weak and powerless to resist. If you don't choose, then I'll choose for you. Screw him once, and that'll be the end of it. At the fat woman's instruction, the men pried open Shun Henji's mouth, stuffed a pill in, and pinched his chin to force him to swallow it. Let go of me. Shun Henji struggled to no avail, and his clothes were already crumpled. Get out! At the critical moment, the fat woman in front of him was pulled away, and her men were also frightened into retreating. Shun Henji's legs went weak, and a slender hand supported him. Shun Henji turned around, his blood running cold. It was Qin Ruolin. Qin Ruolin's face was frosty, her eyebrows furrowed, her eyes as cold as knives, scaring the others away. The surrounding air dropped to freezing point, and Shun Henji's weak body trembled slightly. He moved his arm, trying to get away from Qin Ruolin, but she gripped him tightly. Shenhenji, for money, you've lost all sense of decency? Qin Ruolin gritted her teeth, squeezing out the words, her eyes burning with intense anger. Shenhenji didn't understand why she was so furious. Shouldn't she be happy to see him down and out, resorting to desperate measures for money? Speak. Do you love money that much? Her icy gaze stung him. His artificial heart reacted to his emotional turmoil, fluctuating erratically, causing a pain akin to heartache, suffocating him. He endured the pain and sneered. Thanks to you, I really need money. Qin Ruolin's body shook, meeting his slightly weary gaze. A pang of heartache flashed through her heart, but it was quickly buried by anger. Is that your excuse for selling your body? Is money that important? Important. Shenhenji nodded forcefully. Without money, he would go to jail. Without money, he would die. Qin Ruolin was astonished, incredulous, as if she had never known Shenhenji. Her grip loosened, and Shenhenji took the opportunity to back away and leave. Shenhenji felt his body getting hot, his cheeks flushed with an unnatural blush. He remembered the drug those people had given him. His heart skipped a beat, and he turned and ran. Stop! Qin Ruolin stopped him again. President Qin, are you going to give me money? Shenhenji tugged at the corners of his mouth, his voice laced with sarcasm. But you can't take it back. Qin Ruolin sneered, readily agreeing, grabbing his hand. Fine, I'll give you money. The moment Qin Ruolin got close, her familiar scent enveloped him. Shenhenji became disoriented and entranced, his body involuntarily leaning towards her. Ruolin, help me. Under the influence of the drug, Shenhenji was losing his mind. Hearing this, Qin Ruolin froze, her gaze on him becoming complex. Shenhenji pressed against her, his body burning hot. She pulled him to the exclusive lounge on the second floor. As his body fell onto the bed, Shenhenji regained a sliver of rationality. No! His artificial heart skipped a beat, panic rising. Qin Ruolin, we shouldn't. You could sell yourself to that old woman just now. But now you're playing the innocent boy with me? Qin Ruolin's face darkened, her words sharp as needles. You drugged yourself, didn't you? Just to make money here? Shenhenji looked at her in disbelief, never imagining she would speak to him so cruelly. Even on the day of their divorce, she had only cried and yelled at him, telling him not to regret it. I didn't. Let me go. Shenhenji was weak and breathless. As their eyes met, Qin Ruolin's heart trembled, a flicker of compassion arising. But the memory of him entangled with the old woman fueled her anger, overriding her reason. She straddled him. Shenhenji's body reacted strongly, his struggles minimal, more like he was teasing her. Qin Ruolin kissed his lips, her hands roaming over his body. Touching the scar on his chest, she paused. What's this? Looking at the ugly scar on his chest, Qin Ruolin frowned. Ruolin. Shenhenji's eyes were hazy. A jolt of electricity shot through his chest, his mind blanking for a moment. He didn't answer, but his aroused state was too much for Qin Ruolin to resist. She pushed the matter of the scar to the back of her mind. Bracing herself against his chest, she took control, as if releasing 5 years of pent-up resentment. The familiar yet unfamiliar stimulation completely overwhelmed Shenhenji's reason, immersing him in the passion Qin Ruolin brought him. Qin Ruolin made love to him again and again, until Shenhenji regained consciousness and pushed her away. The woman straightened her clothes, glanced at the man sprawled beside her. You even resorted to drugging yourself? Ex-husband, how much do you want this time? Shenhenji was fully awake now. Qin Ruolin, enough. What? Don't want money anymore? Qin Ruolin sneered, the lust in her eyes gone. Shenhenji clenched his fists, paused, then said, Then please, President Qin, transfer 200,000 to me. You're really asking for a fortune. Qin Ruolin scoffed, then transferred 10,000 to him. I've played with you so many times before, you're not worth that much now. Qin Ruolin's figure disappeared from the room. Shenhenji clutched his chest. Ruolin, if you knew the truth, would you regret treating me like this? Shenhenji braced himself, straightened his clothes, and went downstairs. His whole body was sore and weak, and he was in pain. He wanted to go home and rest. But he was told that if he left midway, he wouldn't be paid for the hours he had worked. He gritted his teeth and persevered, continuing to deliver drinks. After walking back and forth a few times, he leaned against the wall to rest, gently patting his chest, trying to relieve the discomfort caused by the artificial heart. The light in front of him dimmed, and he saw Chin Ruolin again. He got up to leave, and Chin Ruolin's mocking voice came from behind him. "Still wandering around here? Haven't earned enough money yet." Shin Henji took a deep breath. "Yeah, President Chin is too stingy. After bullying me for half a day, you only gave me so little." Chin Ruolin's face immediately darkened, and she stared at him fiercely. Shin Henji didn't understand why Chin Ruolin was angry. He had to earn money to pay her back. "You want to earn money? I'll help you." Chin Ruolin grabbed his arm without any explanation. "Come with me." Everything that had just happened made Shin Henji's heart tremble. He refused. "I'm not going." Chin Ruolin acted as if she hadn't heard him and dragged him into a private room. There were many people sitting in the private room at the moment, including Gu Yanxian. Gu Yanxian stared intently at the hand that Chin Ruolin was holding. "Wife, why did you bring ex-husband here?" Gu Yanxian got up to greet them, pulled Shin Henji away from Chin Ruolin, and forcefully squeezed his fingers. Shin Henji pulled his hand back, and Gu Yanxian took the opportunity to pretend to stagger and hug Chin Ruolin. "Ex-husband is really strong. Are you hurt?" Chin Ruolin looked at Gu Yanxian with concern. Gu Yanxian shook his head. "Let me introduce everyone. This is my money-loving ex-husband." Chin Ruolin glanced at Shin Henji and pointed to the strong liquor on the table. "Drink these, and I'll give you $1 million. Ex-husband, how come you're asking Ruolin for another $1 million after just asking her for one?" Gu Yanxian said sarcastically, not mentioning the matter of taking the money back at all. "Hearing about him is not as good as seeing him. Ex-husband is really thick-skinned. He abandoned President Chin back then, and now he still has the face to come and ask for money. Ex-husband is also talented. This kind of scumbag should be sliced into pieces and apologize with his death." Shin Henji stood at the door, listening to their ridicule and sarcasm. His chest contracted sharply, and his body trembled. "Drink." Chin Ruolin curled her lips. Shin Henji clenched his fist and shook his head, his fingernails digging into his palm. "Too little? I won't drink." He couldn't drink alcohol. The artificial heart in his body would shut down. Chin Ruolin sneered and gave him a thumbs up. "How much do you want?" "The more the better." Shin Henji refused to be outdone. "Drink it all, $1 million. You're only worth that much." Chin Ruolin humiliated him. "Are you sure you won't want it back?" Shin Henji endured the humiliation in his heart, smiled, walked to the table, picked up a glass, and faced her. Seeing her nod, Shin Henji tilted his head back and drank it all in one gulp. The strong liquor burned his throat, choking him into tears. He poured one cup after another into his mouth. The artificial heart was already overloaded. His limbs gradually became numb, and his vision began to blur, but he still mechanically repeated the action of drinking. Chin Ruolin frowned tighter and tighter. The corners of her mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. Seeing him pick up another glass, she finally couldn't help it and suddenly reached out and knocked the wine in his hand over. "Enough! I don't accept discounts." Shin Henji was stunned for a few seconds, raised his eyes, and smiled. Is President Chin going to go back on her word? Chin Ruolin's face was livid, and she roared with scarlet eyes. "Shin Henji, is your life not worth living without money?" "Without money? Where does life come from?" Shin Henji was a little dizzy. The heart in his chest that didn't belong to him was beating slower and slower. He tried hard to pull at the corners of his mouth, but he couldn't smile. "Chin Ruolin, give me the money." "Get out!" Chin Ruolin roared. "Take the money and get out of here." "Thank you, President Chin." Shin Henji tremblingly left the private room, his steps becoming heavier and heavier. He hadn't taken a few steps before he couldn't hold on any longer. He leaned against the wall, his chest heaving violently. A mouthful of blood gushed out, and he fell to the ground. Waking up again, Shin Henji was already lying in the hospital. Chu Wanru, whom he hadn't seen in a long time, sat heavily by the bed. Seeing him wake up, she quickly grasped his hand. Yi, how did you let yourself get into such a mess? Chu Wanru was a mutual friend of him and Qin Ruolin. She grew up with him in the orphanage and was the only one who knew that he had donated his heart to Qin Ruolin. I'm fine. Shenhenji smiled. When did you come back to the country? Yesterday. You can still smile? Do you know that you're really going to die? Chu Wanru choked up. Shenhenji had alcohol poisoning, and his physical condition had deteriorated sharply. He couldn't reinstall the artificial heart. If he didn't have a suitable heart source within a month, he would die. People are destined to die. Shenhenji pretended to be relaxed. Why don't you tell her? Why don't you tell her that her heart was given by you? Chu Wanru lowered her voice, filled with deep sadness. You're just going to die like this? Is it worth it? What did you say? Qin Ruolin suddenly appeared at the door, looking at Chu Wanru in shock. Chu Wanru, what did you just say? What heart? Qin Ruolin walked into the ward with a serious expression. Seeing her, Chu Wanru was immediately filled with anger. After struggling for a long time, she said, Qin Ruolin, you almost caused Yi to have heart failure. He almost died. Hearing this, Qin Ruolin frowned, her eyes complex, and she stared at Shenhenji on the bed. A bad person lives for 1,000 years. This ungrateful scumbag will definitely live a long life. Wanru, open your eyes and don't be fooled by him. He can do anything for money. How much is he trying to swindle me this time? 2 million. Shenhenji felt a pain in his chest. To her, he was just someone who had no bottom line for money, someone who would give up his dignity for money. Qin Ruolin, shut up. Chu Wanru interrupted her. I know what kind of person Yi is better than you. You're the one who should open your eyes. Shenhenji's lips trembled. He wanted to stop Chu Wanru, worried that she would say the truth in anger. In the next moment, his life monitor emitted a sharp alarm. He excitedly grabbed Chu Wanru's hand, desperately shaking his head, not letting her say the truth. Seeing Qin Ruolin like this, she would definitely not accept it. It would be better to keep her in the dark forever. His original intention for donating his heart was to hope that she would live well and live the way she wanted. Chu Wanru couldn't bear it and quickly comforted him. Yi, relax. I'll always keep my promise to you. Doctors and nurses came in and hurriedly pushed Shenhenji to the rescue room. Qin Ruolin was frightened by the scene in front of her and felt extremely uneasy. Chu Wanru, what did you mean just now? Explain it clearly. Qin Ruolin was inexplicably panicked and grabbed Chu Wanru. Chu Wanru pulled her hand back. Yi can't drink alcohol, but you desperately poured him alcohol. Qin Ruolin, how can you have the face to ask me that? Sure enough, he wouldn't sacrifice for me. Qin Ruolin mocked herself. He only loves money. Chu Wanru clenched her fist, resisting the impulse to hit her. You don't love Yi. You are each other. At least you were husband and wife once. I hope you'll show mercy and let Yi go. Chu Wanru left angrily, brushing past Gu Yanxian. Qin Ruolin opened her mouth, but didn't know how to refute. Gu Yanxian walked to Qin Ruolin's side and, seeing that her expression was wrong, quickly asked, Wife, what's wrong? Are you worried about ex-husband? I asked the doctor, and they said he has a stomach bleeding. He can't drink alcohol, but he still has to show off. Luckily, nothing happened, Gu Yanxian said with dissatisfaction. Qin Ruolin looked at him impatiently and interrupted him. Shut up. Gu Yanxian felt another flicker of uneasiness in his heart. Qin Ruolin seemed to be rekindling her old feelings for Shenhenji. He absolutely couldn't let that happen. Shenhenji had to disappear. Shenhenji was out of danger and sent back to the ward. This time, he was in a coma for 3 days. The first thing he did when he woke up was to beg Chu Wanru to take him out of the hospital. He didn't like the smell of disinfectant in the hospital, and he especially didn't want to spend the remaining time of his life in the hospital. After being discharged from the hospital, Shenhenji first went to the tie shop to pack his personal belongings. He packed up the unfinished tie and took it with him. Shenhenji, are you ever going to stop? Why do you always have to pester us? You've been divorced for 5 years. Where do you get the face to keep harassing her? Wasn't the last lesson enough? Do I really have to kill you before you'll give up? Gu Yanxian raised his hand to hit him, but Shenhenji grabbed his wrist. Gu Yanxian, enough is enough. Shenhenji pushed him away and took a step back. I never intended to ruin you, Gu Yanxian exclaimed and fell to the ground. He crashed into the glass display case without deviation, and a patch of red immediately appeared beneath him. Shenhenji, you're insane. Are you trying to kill me? Shenhenji quickly went to help him, but he grabbed Shenhenji's hand and struggled nonstop, as if he had been hurt by Shenhenji. Shenhe? Gu Yanxian said close to Shenhenji's ear. Want to steal Qin Roland from me? In your dreams. After saying that, he forcefully pulled Shenhenji down, pressing him on top of himself. Shenhenji was physically weak and couldn't withstand the tossing. After a few moves, he felt his artificial heart beating abnormally. His breathing became rapid, and his vision gradually blurred. Shenhenji, don't pretend to be dead. Shenhenji, you better really be dead. It was unknown how much time had passed before Shenhenji slowly woke up. He was lying on the floor of the Thai shop. The ground was a mess, and Gu Yanxian was nowhere to be seen. Shenhenji cleaned up the pieces of glass on the floor, took his things, and went home. As soon as he reached the entrance of the residential complex, he was surrounded by several people who were waiting for him. One of them was carrying red paint and poured it on him. At the critical moment, Chu Wanru appeared and pulled him aside. You're really shameless after hooking up with your ex-wife. You're hooking up with other women. You scumbag. You deserve to be taught a lesson. Shenhenji was clueless, standing blankly behind Chu Wanru. Chu Wanru drove the people away before taking a look at Shenhenji behind her. Are you all right? Shenhenji had been pulled away by Chu Wanru, and only his pants had been stained with some paint. I'm all right. You can't go back to your house. Come with me. Chu Wanru took Shenhenji to a hotel. Hey, you're famous. All the top trending topics are about you. Chu Wanru joked. Someone had written his story as a post and published it online. Back then, he was a snob who abandoned the seriously ill Qin Roland. Now he's pestering Qin Roland for money, asking her for money again and again. He's shameless and sells his body for money. He wanted to rekindle his relationship with Qin Roland and used cruel methods to abuse Gu Yanxian. He even wanted to find someone to kidnap him. The post included 2 edited videos. One was a video of him being harassed by an older woman in the bar, and the other was a video of him beating Gu Yanxian in the Thai shop. In just a few hours, the incident escalated, and he became a rat crossing the street that everyone shouted at, a disgusting ex-husband who was despised. Those who surrounded him were online crusaders who wanted to teach him a lesson on behalf of the majority of netizens. Shenhenji read the post from beginning to end and understood in his heart that Gu Yanxian was behind all of this. Actually, it really wasn't necessary. He had never thought about being with Qin Roland again. Chu Wanru was worried about him and stayed in the hotel, watching over him. Only after she was sound asleep did he get up to deal with the red paint on his clothes. Early the next morning, Shenhenji received a call from Qin Roland. Without thinking, he hung up. Afterward, he received a warning text message from Qin Roland. Shenhenji, an ex should act like an ex. Don't do messy things. I don't have that much time to clean up after you. Shenhenji glanced at it indifferently, didn't reply, and turned off his phone. Qin Roland deleted the post and calmed down the online opinions, probably worried that his bad reputation would affect her. To reassure Gu Yanxian, Qin Roland announced the date of her engagement with Gu Yanxian. It happened to be the same day that Shenhenji left. Rather than waiting to die here, he wanted to go out, walk around, and see things. The money Qin Roland gave him was enough for him to travel around the country. Wanrija, I know it's difficult, but I still hope you can handle my funeral for me. Shenhenji faced Chu Wanru. He lowered his head, not daring to look at her. I bought this room, and I hope you can come and clean it up from time to time. I've also chosen a cemetery. I want you to find a few people to cry at my funeral and have a big one. Also, find me a brother-in-law as soon as possible. Remember to bring him to me first to check him out. Unknowingly, Shenhenji's eyes turned red and tears welled up in his eyes. Also, don't tell her I'm dead. Chu Wanru couldn't help but interrupt him. Don't talk nonsense. There's still time. We'll definitely find a suitable heart source. You'll definitely get better. Shenhenji nodded, forcing a smile. Okay, call me then, and I'll come back for surgery as soon as possible. Chu Wanru turned her head away, tears slipping from the corners of her eyes. She raised her hand and wiped them away. Okay, Shinhenji was grateful. Besides Qin Ruolin, Chu Wanru was the closest person he had in this world. Over the next few days, Shinhenji spent most of his time curled up in bed, often recalling the bits and pieces of his time with Qin Ruolin. He received messages from Gu Yanxian almost every day, showing off the things Qin Ruolin had done for him. The media was also heavily promoting Qin Ruolin's love for Gu Yanxian. Qin Ruolin bought Gu Yanxian a 7-figure watch. Qin Ruolin bought Gu Yanxian a yacht. Qin Ruolin had a 7-figure dress tailored for Gu Yanxian, and so on and so forth. Shinhenji never responded, nor did he care. All of this had nothing to do with him anymore. On the day Shinhenji left, the entire Jincheng was bustling with excitement. The entire internet was streaming Qin Ruolin and Gu Yinchuan's engagement ceremony. The engagement scene was like a dream, with pink roses as walls, champagne-colored rose petals as carpets, and countless drones flying in the sky, displaying various patterns of love. These rich people are really extravagant. They make such a big scene just for an engagement. What will it be like when they get married? The driver said, watching the live broadcast and complaining. Shinhenji remained silent, staring at the live broadcast, his chest filling with pain again. His former childhood sweetheart was finally holding someone else's hand, making a vow for life. That face etched in his heart was full of happiness, looking deeply in love at Gu Yanxian in front of her. Although Gu Yanxian wasn't good, he still hoped that Qin Ruolin would be happy forever. Qin Ruolin, you must be happy. Shinhenji boarded the plane and sent Qin Ruolin a message. Qin Ruolin, thank you for the 1 million. As a thank you gift, I wish you happiness, peace, and smoothness for the rest of your life. With 1 hour left before the engagement ceremony, Qin Ruolin received Shinhenji's text message. Qin Ruolin called back, but Shinhenji's phone was already turned off. Every word he wrote felt like a farewell to her. Suddenly, his pale and desperate face flashed into her mind, and Qin Ruolin's heart clenched. In that moment, confusion and unease intertwined in her heart, making her feel like she was sitting on pins and needles. He rarely spoke to her like that. What on earth was Shinhenji up to? Qin Ruolin was agitated, staring blankly at the mirror. Gu Yanxian walked in, his hands on her shoulders, the amazement in his eyes obvious. Wife, you're so beautiful. Qin Ruolin was oblivious, her mind filled with Shinhenji. Gu Yanxian gently patted her shoulder. Wife, what's wrong? Qin Ruolin looked up, and for a moment she saw Shinhenji. Yanxian, I have something to do. I need to go out for a bit. Qin Ruolin stood up. Gu Yanxian hugged Qin Ruolin, refusing to let go. Wife, the ceremony is about to start. Where are you going? Qin Ruolin was displeased, frowning as she looked at him. He reluctantly let go. Qin Ruolin lifted the hem of her wedding dress and walked out quickly. As she walked out, she called Shinhenji's phone. The phone you have dialed is switched off. The mechanical voice that repeated over and over made her increasingly uneasy. She clearly hated Shinhenji for abandoning her, wishing he was dead. But at this moment, she was actually afraid of never seeing him again. Chu Wanru arrived at the engagement banquet carrying 2 gifts and saw Qin Ruolin leaving in a hurry. Her gaze searched behind Chu Wanru, and when she didn't see Shinhenji's figure, the unease in her heart intensified. Wanru, where's Shinhenji? Did he come? Qin Ruolin rushed forward excitedly, grabbing Chu Wanru's arm and asking anxiously. Chu Wanru curled her lips in a mocking smile. Qin Ruolin, what are you looking for your ex-husband for? He's already left. He left? Where did he go? Why do you think I would? Qin Ruolin felt a stabbing pain in her heart and shook her head forcefully. It can't be ended. He owes me, and he hasn't paid it back yet. Qin Ruolin, how can you have the face to say that? Do you know? Chu Wanru suddenly stopped. Shinhenji didn't want Qin Ruolin to know the truth. Know what? You want to say that he left for my sake? Leaving a dying me and running off with someone else? Is that for my good? Qin Ruolin's face was pale, and the scene from back then was like a sharp blade piercing her heart. She subconsciously clutched her chest. How could that kind of treacherous scumbag be good to me? Qin Ruolin was inexplicably agitated, forcefully clutching the clothes on her chest. Chu Wanru smiled faintly. If that's the case, then what are you looking for him for? Qin Ruolin became fierce, suddenly gritting her teeth. I won't let him escape from my grasp. The pain he gave me, I'm going to return it to him 100-fold, 1,000-fold. No matter where Shinhenji went, she was going to find him. Seeing Qin Ruolin acting like she was possessed, Chu Wanru warned her. Qin Ruolin, you can't hurt Yi. Chu Wanru, the three of us grew up together, and you always favor him. Don't tell me you like him too. Chu Wanru's body stiffened, and she couldn't help but raise her hand and slap Qin Ruolin. Qin Ruolin, you don't deserve Yi's love. Qin Ruolin was stunned by the slap and didn't regain her senses for a long time. Gu Yanxian ran over in time, protecting her behind him. Wife, what's wrong? Should I call the police? Chu Wanru looked at Gu Yanxian and sneered. You two just have a peaceful engagement and get married early. If you dare to cause trouble for Yi, I won't let you off. Chu Wanru threw the gift on the ground and turned to leave. Wife, it's time. We should enter. Okay. Qin Ruolin responded and lowered her head to straighten the hem of her skirt, only to suddenly notice the thing on the ground. The gift box that Chu Wanru threw was broken in half, and a concentric knot fell out. The glaring red color caused her heart to ache. This was woven by Shinhenji. When they were poor, Shinhenji set up a stall in the night market selling concentric knots. That winter was very cold, and his hands were covered in frostbite. In severe cases, blood would seep into the red rope. Ruolin, I blessed every concentric knot. The couples who buy them will grow old together. When we have our wedding, I'm going to weave a special concentric knot to hang around my neck, and we'll also grow old together. Qin Ruolin bent down to pick it up, looking at the character Lin in the center of the concentric knot, and felt a continuous pain in her heart. She didn't understand why she was thinking about these things. Wife, we should go in. Qin Ruolin came back to her senses and entered the venue with Gu Yanxian, and the scene was instantly filled with warm applause. The MC was giving the opening speech, but Qin Ruolin didn't hear a single word. The concentric knot in her hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Shinhenji's face became clearer and clearer, as if he was right in front of her. Qin Ruolin suddenly grabbed the microphone and coldly announced, "The engagement ceremony is canceled. The banquet will proceed as planned. You can decide whether to stay or leave." Wife! Gu Yanxian was stunned, grabbing Qin Ruolin's arm with a wronged expression. Why? Qin Ruolin didn't speak, broke away his hand, and left the engagement venue. At this time, Shinhenji was resting with his eyes closed on the plane. His first stop was Haicheng. That was a place he had wanted to go to since he was in school. After getting off the plane, he turned on his phone. Countless calls and messages flooded in. Qin Ruolin had called him hundreds of times alone. Shinhenji, where did you go? Even if it's the ends of the earth, I'm going to find you. Shinhenji, don't you want money anymore? Working by my side, I'll pay you 100,000 a day. Speak. Shinhenji, you haven't paid me back what you owe me. Don't even think about running away. Shinhenji didn't know what was wrong with Qin Ruolin and didn't bother to pay attention to her. Gu Yanxian had also sent a lot of messages, presumably to show off, but Shinhenji deleted them without even looking. He took his luggage, checked into a seaside cottage he had rented in advance, unpacked his luggage, and bought a new SIM card to replace the old one. He didn't want to be disturbed by Qin Ruolin and Gu Yanxian anymore. In the evening, he lay on a rocking chair in the cottage and called Chu Wanru. Wanru, yeah, I've arrived. This is my new SIM card number. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds before Chu Wanru's voice rang out. Yi, Qin Ruolin canceled the engagement banquet. She's gone crazy trying to find you. Shinhenji was stunned. Does she want you to pay back the money? I don't know. Chu Wanru shook her head. Shinhenji sighed. He had never realized that Qin Ruolin was so stingy, repeatedly wanting to take back the money she had given him. He knew that Qin Ruolin hated him, but it wasn't to the point of chasing him around the world, right? Hey, go abroad with me. There are more donation resources abroad than in China, and you can also avoid Qin Ruolin. Chu Wanru was comforting him again. His blood type was rare, and the probability of finding a successful match was extremely low. Just like Qin Ruolin back then, if he hadn't also happened to have a rare blood type, she would have only had death waiting for her. I'm not going. I like it here. I won't talk to you anymore. I still need to buy some things. Shunhenji found an excuse to hang up the phone. Shunhenji looked at the waves, his thoughts in turmoil. Thinking of Qin Ruolin, his chest felt like it was being pressed by a hand, both stuffy and painful. Why did Qin Ruolin have to find him? Yinshin? Qin Ruolin frantically searched for Shunhenji. She had her assistant pull up information on all flights and high-speed trains. When she saw that Shunhenji had bought over a dozen plane tickets at the same time, her face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Sure enough, Shunhenji was just like he was back then, not wanting her to find him. Qin Ruolin hadn't rested for a day and a night. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she was nearly insane. Find him. Keep looking. Qin Ruolin roared at the assistant. If you can't find Shunhenji, don't even bother coming back. Qin Ruolin left the office and drove around the streets, searching. Without realizing it, she had driven to Shunhenji's house. 5 years had passed, and it was still dirty and messy. Following the route in her memory, she walked to the front of the small house. In the next second, the door opened. Qin Ruolin was stunned, her eyes meeting Chu Wanru's. What are you doing here? Chu Wanru frowned. I should be asking you that. Do you hate Yi that much? Do you want him to die? Qin Ruolin was stunned for a moment. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She only knew that she had to find Shunhenji and keep him by her side. Your issues are in the past. It's not in the past. It'll never be in the past. Qin Ruolin's eyes turned red, and she gritted her teeth. He can't just run away. Qin Ruolin looked inside through the gap. The layout of the house was exactly the same as she remembered. Her heart clenched fiercely, and she pushed Chu Wanru away and walked inside. The old wooden table with peeling paint, the 2 chairs tied with tape, the bed placed in the corner. Even the bed sheets were exactly the same as they used to be. Qin Ruolin raised her eyes and saw a newly framed photograph on the wall. It was a photo of her and Shunhenji getting their marriage certificate. How could this be? Qin Ruolin blinked hard, thinking it was a hallucination. Shunhenji cruelly abandoned her. Why did he still keep this house? Qin Ruolin's eyes turned red, and her breathing tightened, as if a large hand was squeezing her heart. Chu Wanru, did you hide Shunhenji? Chu Wanru shook her head, refusing to admit it. You should leave. Chu Wanru pushed Qin Ruolin out and locked the door. Don't come here in the future. You'll dirty Yi's home. Chu Wanru. Qin Ruolin endured. Don't force me. To find Shunhenji, I'm capable of anything. Chu Wanru smiled disdainfully, turned, and left. I don't care. As long as Yi is okay, you can kill me. Qin Ruolin stood on the spot, clenching her fists tightly, her gaze as sharp as a knife, as if she wanted to cut open Chu Wanru's back. She stood outside the small house all night, and only left when it was dawn. She drove to the places they used to frequent, trying to find Shunhenji. Only when she was exhausted did she return to the office. Looking at the other party's ticket information on the table, she checked it over and over again. When she saw Haicheng, her heart skipped a beat for no reason. Shunhenji had said that he wanted to go to Haicheng. The engagement banquet was canceled, and Gu Yanxian became a laughingstock. He locked himself in his room, calling Qin Ruolin's number over and over. Qin Ruolin didn't answer any of them, and even ordered her people to send back the things he had left at the villa. She was breaking up with him. Gu Yanxuan's hatred reached its peak, believing that it was all Shunhenji's fault. Shunhenji, I'm going to make you pay the price. Haicheng. Shunhenji went to the supermarket to buy daily necessities, but his body was unable to bear the weight, and he had to rest several times. He gave up the idea of traveling around the country and wanted to live quietly here, waiting for the day he died. Chu Wanru told him about Qin Ruolin going to the cottage, but he only paused for a moment and didn't respond. As long as Qin Ruolin couldn't find him, she could do whatever she wanted. Shunhenji was blowing the sea breeze in the courtyard and eating watermelon, looking content when Qin Ruolin appeared. Shunhenji. Qin Ruolin's cold voice came. Shunhenji's movement stopped. Open the door, Qin Ruolin commanded. Shunhenji got up and quickly ran back into the house. Outside, Qin Ruolin was smashing on the door. Shunhenji, open the door. Shinhenji was worried that she would disturb the neighbors, so he went out, facing her across the courtyard wall. Qin Ruolin, you said you wouldn't want that one. 1 million back. A billionaire chasing him from Jincheng to Haicheng for 1 million. Shinhenji didn't know how to describe her. Qin Ruolin's face was livid. You only care about money. Shinhenji, do you even have a heart? Shinhenji's eyes darkened. He had lost his heart a long time ago. Forcing a smile, he reached out his hand. Did President Qin come to give me money again? How much this time? Shinhenji. Qin Ruolin had her people kick open the door and grabbed Shinhenji's wrist. Make me happy, and I'll give you as much as you want. This is breaking and entering. Shinhenji was stunned for a moment and warned in a cold voice. Call the police. Qin Ruolin didn't care. If you're not afraid of something happening to Chu Wanru, you can try. Shinhenji frowned instantly, in disbelief. Qin Ruolin, have you lost your mind? She's your sister who you grew up with. You're also my ex-husband who I grew up with, and you're adept at hurting me. Qin Ruolin said coldly. She's been playing me along with you. Shouldn't I teach her a lesson? Shinhenji took out his phone to contact Chu Wanru, but it showed that the phone was already turned off. He became anxious and his eyes turned red. Qin Ruolin, what did you do to Wanru? What exactly do you want? You abandoned a dying me back then, and now you've ruined my engagement. What do you think I want? I didn't. Shinhenji retorted. Qin Ruolin sneered. What do you mean you didn't? You've been targeting Gu Yanxian repeatedly. Isn't it because you want me to break up with him? Shinhenji was speechless. It was clearly Gu Yanxian who was targeting him. Shinhenji, tell me, shouldn't I take revenge on you? Shinhenji was suddenly shaken. She was going to take revenge on him. If you don't want anything to happen to Chu Wanru, then stay obediently by my side until I'm satisfied. Shinhenji lowered his eyes and didn't speak. Qin Ruolin wasn't in a hurry and just stood opposite him. After a long time, Shinhenji spoke. Okay. Qin Ruolin secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but her face remained icy. Shinhenji, Chu Wanru's life depends entirely on your performance. Qin Ruolin sent away the bodyguards and settled down in the cottage herself. Shinhenji cleaned up the room for her, and with slightly larger movements, he felt a heaviness in his chest. This artificial heart in his body really seemed unable to hold on any longer. He hoped he could hold out until Qin Ruolin had finished her revenge and released Wanru. He was kneeling on the bed resting when Qin Ruolin walked in. Shinhenji, does it take you all night to make a bed? Qin Ruolin said with dissatisfaction. Shinhenji quickened his pace, and his heart rate increased as well. After making the bed, he was already covered in sweat. Looking at his pale face, a strange feeling flashed through Qin Ruolin's mind. She wanted to ask, but Shinhenji had already passed her and left, remaining silent the whole time. She took a step to chase him, grabbing his hand. His indifference made her unhappy. Shinhenji, you have no right to give me a cold face. Shinhenji paused, a dense pain spreading through his wrist. Let go of me. Don't you like money? You'll do anything as long as there's money. Qin Ruolin couldn't suppress the anger in her heart and spoke with humiliation. What? Did you change your ways today? Sweat beaded on Shinhenji's forehead, and he was panting for breath, making Qin Ruolin's heart stir. She subconsciously moved closer to him, pinning him against the wall. Qin Ruolin, have you lost your mind? Shinhenji's artificial heart was stuttering. His chest felt like it was being cut with knives. Her words were more and more hurtful, and her behavior was more and more insane. Shinhenji was running on fumes, and his strength was far less than Qin Ruolin's. Despite struggling with all his might, he was still held tightly in her arms. Why don't you want money anymore? Qin Ruolin stared at him. Shinhenji, think about your Wanru. Shinhenji paused, lowered his head to look at her, and pulled at the corners of his mouth. What do you want? Qin Ruolin didn't speak, stood on her tiptoes, and bit his lips. His whole body trembled, but he didn't dare to struggle. I want you to regret it. Her voice was cold. Shinhenji, I want you to regret what you did to me back then. Her kiss was a punishment, suffocating him. He closed his eyes, and once again felt like his heart was being cut with knives, and the corners of his eyes became wet. Qin Roland's movements suddenly stopped, and looking at his desperate appearance, she didn't feel the joy of revenge. Instead, she felt a pang of pain. She took a step back, didn't say a word, and slammed the door as she left. Shinhenji turned around and went back to his room. He painfully clutched his chest, stuffing one pill after another into his mouth. Heaven was truly unfair. Why did he have to see Qin Roland before he died? Early the next morning, Shinhenji woke up and saw Qin Roland bustling around in the kitchen. Memory and reality intertwined. The two Qin Rolands overlapped, and Shinhenji had a moment of "Come over, eat." Qin Roland saw him and ordered in a cold voice. Shinhenji obediently walked over and sat across from her. Qin Roland had made all of his favorite breakfasts, especially that bowl of health-preserving porridge. He lowered his head, took a bite, and the familiar taste made him feel, as if he had returned to the past. He raised his head and met Qin Roland's burning gaze, and his artificial heart stuttered again. "Is it good?" Shinhenji nodded, not knowing what Qin Roland meant. Yesterday, she vowed to take revenge on him and humiliate him, but today she made his favorite porridge. A hint of elusive joy flashed in Qin Roland's eyes. "Accompany me for a walk after you finish eating." Shinhenji's physical strength was very poor now, and he couldn't walk far. He wanted to refuse, but meeting Qin Roland's cold gaze, he could only nod. Qin Roland walked in front, and Shinhenji struggled to follow her. Qin Roland turned her head several times, seeing him supporting himself with his arms and panting for breath, and she slowed down her pace without making a sound. "Qin Roland, when will you release Wanrijie?" Shinhenji caught up, pressing down on his chest hard to catch his breath. "When I'm satisfied. Qin Roland, I was wrong. It was my fault for abandoning you back then. You see, I'm not doing so well either. You're a magnanimous person. Please forgive me." Qin Roland immediately frowned, her face turning cold. "Shinhenji, you think you can smooth over the pain you brought me with a few words? In your dreams." Qin Roland was angry and started walking forward. A group of people with advertising signs came out from the side, forcefully passing between the two, separating them, and the distance between them grew larger and larger. Shinhenji was sad, looking at her through the crowd, and couldn't help but wonder, if she knew the truth, what would her reaction be? More and more people completely blocked his sight. He couldn't see Qin Roland, and his body was pushed back repeatedly. "Qin Roland, wait for me." Suddenly, a few people darted out of a nearby alley and dragged him into the alley. He was shocked, instinctively struggling. "Who are you? Let go of me." One person covered his mouth with a handkerchief, and he instantly lost consciousness. Hearing Shinhenji shout, Qin Roland turned around. Seeing the crowd pushing Shinhenji away, she subconsciously moved back, wanting to return to his side. There were too many people, making it difficult for her to move forward. When the crowd dispersed, Shinhenji was nowhere to be seen. "Shinhenji, come out." Qin Roland's heart skipped a beat. She called Shinhenji's phone, but there was no answer. Thinking of his repeated abandonment, Qin Roland was both angry and furious. He must have taken the opportunity to run away again. Did he really want to leave her that much? Qin Roland searched along the road and returned to the cottage. The courtyard gate was closed, and Shinhenji's phone remained unanswered. Her heart couldn't help but jump, and her anger turned into a strange tension. She swallowed and raised her hand to knock on the door. After knocking several times, there was no response. Qin Roland's face turned colder inch by inch. "Shinhenji, konoa," Qin Roland roared, forcefully pounding on the door. "Aren't you worried that I'll kill Chu Wanru?" The courtyard was silent, with no one responding. At that moment, there was movement outside the courtyard. She quickly went out, seeing Chu Wanru. "What are you doing here? Where's Yi?" Chu Wanru looked at her. "He's gone." Learning that Qin Roland had lost Yi, Chu Wanru glared at her angrily. "Qin Roland, you bastard, if anything happens to Yi, I won't let you off." The first thing Chu Wanru thought of was a problem with the artificial heart. She ignored Qin Roland and left in a hurry. Qin Roland followed her closely, her emotions flustered. What happened? What could happen to a perfectly fine person? Chu Wanru didn't want to waste time talking to her, so she took a taxi to search the nearby hospitals. At this time, Shin Henji was taken to an abandoned factory. Gu Yinchuan's eyes were filled with hatred. Shin Henji, you ruined my engagement banquet with Qin Ruolin. I'm going to make you wish you were dead. Gu Yinxian, it's against the law to kill someone. You drove me crazy, you slut. It's all because of you that Qin Ruolin broke up with me. You hurt her so deeply back then. Why does she still have feelings for you? Shin Henji was surprised. Qin Ruolin still had feelings for him. That was impossible. She clearly hated him to the bone. Just a few days ago, she had gone crazy and wanted to settle accounts with him. Shin Henji, I'm going to have you buried with my happiness. Go to hell. Gu Yinxian suddenly held up a baseball bat and slammed it hard at Shin Henji's head. Shin Henji stared wide-eyed in terror, the immense pain causing him to tremble and fall, blood flowing down. Die for me. Having missed the first time, Gu Yinxian didn't hesitate and once again swung the baseball bat at Shin Henji's head. Shin Henji closed his eyes in despair. At the critical moment, someone suddenly appeared, shielding him. Qin Ruolin. The sudden turn of events scared Gu Yinxian, turning his face as pale as a sheet. The baseball bat in his hand was snatched away by Qin Ruolin's people. Qin Ruolin's eyes were bloodshot, as if two angry flames were burning. She ordered her men to grab him. Gu Yinxian, you just wait. Gu Yinchuan's legs went weak, and he collapsed to the ground. Shin Henji was curled up, his entire face stained with blood, his pupils dilated, panting heavily. The fear of losing Shin Henji occupied her heart, completely overwhelming Qin Ruolin's hatred for Shin Henji. Shin Henji. Qin Ruolin's voice trembled slightly as she squatted on the ground to look at him. Don't scare me. Qin Ruolin, don't make me pay back the money. Shin Henji looked at Qin Ruolin and said weakly. Qin Ruolin's body trembled, and her face instantly fell. Is money really all you care about? Shin Henji opened his mouth, but didn't have the strength to speak anymore. The artificial heart stopped beating, and his consciousness completely dissipated. Shin Henji. Qin Ruolin's roar was deafening, but Shin Henji didn't respond in the slightest. Yi. Chu Wanru also rushed in, seeing Shin Henji's appearance, and was too scared to approach. Call an ambulance quickly. Shin Henji woke up again, lying on a hospital bed once more. His head ached so badly that he couldn't move. Chu Wanru sat by his side, her face full of sorrow, and her eyes filled with reluctance. Wanruja, are you all right? Shin Henji saw her and quickly asked. What could happen to me? Chu Wanru asked in return. Qin Ruolin didn't. Shin Henji suddenly reacted. He had been tricked by Qin Ruolin. Qin Ruolin wouldn't actually do anything to Chu Wanru. What's wrong? Chu Wanru saw his unusual expression and couldn't help but ask. Where's Qin Ruolin? Before the words finished, the door to the ward was pushed open violently. Qin Ruolin appeared at the door, one hand tightly gripping the door frame, her body trembling with too much emotion. It wasn't me who told her. I'll go out first. Chu Wanru gave Shin Henji a meaningful look, and Shin Henji understood. Qin Ruolin already knew the truth. She was fixed in place, unable to move her legs, her eyes glued to Shin Henji's face. Why did you hide it from me? Qin Ruolin took heavy steps, walked to the bed, and knelt down directly, her gaze level with Shin Henji's. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying. She cautiously touched Shin Henji's hand and started crying again. Why didn't you tell me? Shin Henji's emotions, suppressed for 5 years, poured out at this moment. Tears fell, and he said softly, Qin Ruolin, you shouldn't know. I just want you to live well. Shin Henji didn't expect the truth to come out so quickly. He didn't have the joy of clearing his name and would have preferred Qin Ruolin to hate him all along. At least that way, she wouldn't be sad about his death. His heart ached at the sight of Qin Ruolin's red, swollen eyes. He raised his hand to gently wipe her eyes. Qin Ruolin, promise me, you must live well. Don't let my heart go to waste. Without you, how can I live well? Qin Ruolin choked up, grabbing his hand. Do you know that I work hard to earn money just to make you regret it? I want you to regret it. I want you to beg me. I want you to come back to my side. Every difficult day and night, all I think about is you. I succeeded. You will definitely come back. I'll find the best doctors in the world for you, and I'll definitely find a suitable heart. You have to believe me." Chin Roland held his hand, her emotions spiraling out of control, and tears fell on the back of his hand. This was the second time Shin Henji had seen Chin Roland lose control. The first time was on the day of their divorce. Each time, it was when they were about to be separated. Okay, Shin Henji couldn't bear to refuse her. In fact, they both knew that finding a suitable heart source within 10 days was harder than climbing to the sky. Chin Roland guarded Shun Henji day and night, never leaving his side. She seemed to have thousands of words to say, but she couldn't seem to say a single word. Shun Henji's condition improved somewhat, and he requested to be discharged from the hospital. Chin Roland took him back to Jincheng and built a room exactly like the cottage in the villa. "Did you move my house here?" Shun Henji smiled. Chin Roland took his arm, correcting him seriously. "It's our home." On the third day, after being discharged from the hospital, Chu Wanru arrived at the villa with 3 renowned foreign doctors. They carefully examined Shin Henji and left the room with troubled expressions. A moment later, Chu Wanru returned. "The doctor said your body is much better and you can have surgery at any time. Chin Roland will find a heart source soon. You'll be fine." Chu Wanru's eyes were darting around as she spoke, a habit she couldn't seem to break when she was lying. Shin Henji smiled slightly, cooperating with her. "Yes, that's great." After a brief silence, Chu Wanru spoke again. "I heard you two are getting back together?" "You heard wrong. We won't get back together." Shin Henji shook his head firmly. "I'm afraid it's not up to you. Chin Roland is already preparing for the wedding." Mention of the wedding reminded Shun Henji of Gu Yanxian. Since that day, he didn't seem to have heard any news about Gu Yanxian. "How is Gu Yanxian?" "He was arrested." Chu Wanru's expression flickered slightly, which Shun Henji didn't see. "That person has an evil mind. It's good for him to be locked up for a while to grind down his temperament." Shun Henji sighed. He had no idea that Gu Yanxian had been locked up by Chin Roland. At this time, Chin Roland went alone to the black market, wanting to find a suitable heart for Shin Henji. She was there for the first time, didn't understand the rules, was caught and almost taken advantage of. Fortunately, the police arrived in time and rescued her. Chin Roland was seriously injured, but refused to be hospitalized and flew abroad overnight to continue looking for a heart source. She wouldn't give up as long as there was a sliver of hope. On the 4th day after Shin Henji was discharged from the hospital, Chin Roland returned, bringing back 2 foreign experts. Chin Roland looked travel-worn and wore thick concealer on her face to hide the wounds, wearing a high-necked long-sleeved shirt, afraid that Shin Henji would see her injuries. "Chin Roland, aren't you hot?" Shin Henji tugged at her clothes. "I'm hot. I'll change my clothes in a bit." Chin Roland nestled into Shun Henji's arms, and Shun Henji's smile froze. He saw her injuries and knew that she had gone to the black market to find a heart for him. She didn't want him to know, so he would pretend not to know. He only wanted to be with her in the remaining days. With piles and piles of pills going down his throat, Shin Henji's condition seemed to be much better than before. Chin Roland used all her connections to find a heart source, but still couldn't find a suitable one. The day of death was getting closer and closer, and the number of times Chin Roland went out was getting less and less. "Chin Roland, don't you need to go to the company?" Shin Henji asked in confusion. She was with him almost 24 hours a day. "I don't." Chin Roland handed a peeled orange to Shin Henji. Looking into each other's eyes, Chin Roland's eyes held an undissolvable love, and Shin Henji's artificial heart stopped beating for a moment. Forgive me for the pain I caused you. I love you. I don't want to lose you." Chin Roland confessed her love deeply and actively kissed his lips. Shin Henji didn't struggle and took the opportunity to pull her into his arms. "Chin Roland, I missed you so much in these 5 years." He no longer suppressed his love and kissed her deeply. Being too emotionally excited, Shin Henji's breathing became rapid, and his artificial heart beat erratically. His body went limp and collapsed onto Chin Roland. Don't scare me." Shin Henji slept for a long time. When he woke up, he saw Chin Roland looking pale. I'm fine. He touched her cheek with heartache. How many days haven't you washed your face? Chin Roland's eyes turned red, holding his hand. I'll wash it several times later. How do you feel? The artificial heart in Shunhenji's body was already overloaded. Even minor emotional changes would cause it to stop working. I'm very good. You look more haggard than I do. Go and rest for a while. Chin Roland shook her head, unwilling to leave him for even a step. Shunhenji felt a little better, so Chin Roland took him out for a walk. The sunlight shone through the mottled leaves, scattering onto Chin Roland, as if plating her with a layer of gold. Shunhenji looked at her with a smile. What's wrong? You're really pretty. Chin Roland also smiled, full of confidence. That's natural. A wave of dizziness struck. Shunhenji's body swayed, but he forced a smile, still as narcissistic as before. A hint of worry flashed in Chin Roland's eyes, but she didn't show it on her face. Suddenly, a little girl holding flowers walked up to them and held up the flowers. Big brother, these are for you. Before Shunhenji could react, a few more children walked over, also handing him flowers. Big brother, I hope you're happy every day. Shunhenji held the flowers, puzzled. In the next moment, a hot air balloon appeared in the sky with a banner hanging below. Ay, ye marry me? Chu Wanru pushed out a cake, with the same words written on it. Ay, ye marry me again? Chin Roland knelt on one knee, holding up a diamond ring. This time, we'll have a grand wedding. Shunhenji's eyes turned red, looking at Chin Roland's hand holding the diamond ring. Chin Roland, I. This was once the scene of his proposal, except that the roses used at the time were single stems, and the banner was hung below ordinary balloons. The scene of the proposal overlapped with the scene in his memory. He suddenly understood that Chin Roland actually remembered it so clearly. She still loved him so much, but he was about to die. Ay, don't refuse me. We've already missed 5 years. I don't want to have any regrets in the rest of my life. Chin Roland looked up to meet his gaze. Chu Wanru spoke up at the right time. Ay, she's right. You can't have any regrets in the rest of your life. Shunhenji hesitated, but Chin Roland had already slipped the ring onto his ring finger. Ay, 5 years ago you made the decision to divorce me without consulting me. Today, you have to listen to me and marry me again. His chest warmed up, and Shunhenji felt dizzy again. He nodded while trying to hold on. Okay, I promise you. Chin Roland stood up excitedly and lunged into his arms, but only for a moment, before quickly letting him go. She was worried that he would get too excited and faint again. Chu Wanru pushed the cake in front of Shunhenji. She made this chocolate mousse herself, your favorite. She handed the knife to Shunhenji. Shunhenji smiled and cut the cake, ate a piece himself, and distributed the rest to the children who had given them flowers. Seeing Shunhenji's happy face, Chin Roland hoped that time would stop at this moment forever. That night, Chin Roland received a call and hurriedly went out, without even having time to say hello to Shunhenji. Her phone was unreachable, and Shunhenji tossed and turned with worry, unable to sleep all night. When it dawned, Chin Roland returned with dense needle marks on her wrist. She subconsciously tugged at her sleeves, forcing a smile. Seeing Shunhenji sitting on the sofa, she hurried to his side, looking at his red eyes with heartache. Why are you here? Didn't sleep all night. Shunhenji nodded, grabbing her arm. Where did you go? Chin Roland's eyes flickered slightly. Something happened to the company. It was my fault for making you worry. I'll go to sleep with you for a while, okay? She had actually gone to the hospital for an examination, wanting to give her heart to Shunhenji. But she had had a heart transplant before and couldn't get an artificial heart. A whole night of expectation ultimately came to nothing. Chin Roland's heart ached beyond measure. Shunhenji didn't notice Chin Roland's strangeness and got up to follow Chin Roland upstairs. He held Chin Roland in his arms, feeling inexplicably uneasy. He looked down at Chin Roland, who was closing her eyes and pretending to sleep. Roland, are you hiding something from me? Chin Roland didn't respond, and Shunhenji hugged her tightly, hoping that his heart would stay with her until old age. Shunhenji didn't wake up until the afternoon. Chin Roland sat by his side, looking at him with a smile. Hey, let's go get our marriage certificate. The Civil Affairs Bureau hasn't closed yet. Chin Roland's eyes were full of longing, and Shun Henji hesitated. You understand me. In this life, I won't marry anyone but you. Chin Roland's gaze was firm. Okay. The words of persuasion reached his lips, but turned into a single word. Chin Roland succeeded and smiled like a child. She took out the tie that had been torn by Gu Yinxian from behind her. A unique tie, tried on? When did you make this? You can't even see the traces of tearing. Shenhenji was surprised. She was with him every day, but he had never noticed. I'll help you tie it when you're sleeping. Shenhenji nodded happily. Chin Roland's movements were very light, carefully tidying up the details of the tie. Afterward, Chin Roland took out a Chinese knot woven with their two names and hung it around his neck. It's been blessed, we'll grow old together. Seeing this, Shun Henji's eyes instantly welled up with tears, and he tried hard to restrain his emotions. Suddenly, Shun Henji didn't want to die anymore. He wanted to grow old together with Chin Roland. Civil Affaires Bureau. Chin Roland and Shun Henji stood in front of the declaration platform, holding hands tightly, reading the vows together. We voluntarily become husband and wife starting from today. Tears welled up in their eyes, and they both tried hard to curl their lips, pretending to be overjoyed and crying. Chin Roland scheduled the wedding for that night. She wished she could split one day into several days to live through. The time was short, but the wedding wasn't simple at all. Chin Roland invited the celebrities of Jinsheng and broadcasted the wedding live across the country. Before the wedding began, she gave Shenhenji a heartfelt confession. Chin Roland bowed deeply to the camera. In previous interviews, I said that the person I wanted to thank was my ex-husband. Thank you for abandoning me back then, which gave me the motivation to work hard. Today, I still thank him. Thank him for appearing in my life. Thank him for giving me his heart. Thank him for giving me the opportunity to make up for the hurt I caused him. I want to apologize to my husband in front of everyone. I misunderstood him. The barrage was filled with applause and flowers. People who had read the posts that smeared Shenhenji before came out to apologize to him. So that's the truth. Shenhenji isn't a money grubber at all, but a real man with love and loyalty. What kind of fairy husband is this? Give me one too. We misunderstood him. I'm sorry. You must be happy. We will help find a heart together. Although Shenhenji didn't care what others thought of him, he was very happy at this moment. Chin Roland clarified things for him, and netizens sent him their blessings. It wasn't bad to have his name cleared before he died. Under the night sky, the stars twinkled. Shenhenji wore the tie that Chin Roland had made herself, dressed in a black suit. His straight figure was even more upright in the moonlight. His gaze followed Chin Roland, his eyes full of deep affection and expectation. Chin Roland took Chu Wanru's arm and stepped onto the red carpet, walking towards him step by step. Chu Wanru placed Chin Roland's hand in Shun Henji's hand. Hey, I wish you happiness. Shenhenji nodded, and Chu Wanru's eyes turned red as she turned around. You're so handsome. That's for sure. Shenhenji imitated Chin Roland's narcissistic tone. Marrying me is your good fortune. Chin Roland nodded in agreement. Under everyone's blessings, he placed the wedding ring on Chin Roland's hand and gently kissed her forehead. Wife, I love you. Chin Roland smiled, stood on tiptoe, and actively kissed his lips. Husband, I love you. A familiar feeling washed over him, and Shenhenji felt as if someone was choking his neck, unable to breathe. The artificial heart in his chest completely stopped working, and his limp body fell into Chin Roland's arms. He used all his strength to pull at the corners of his mouth, wanting to let Chin Roland see him smile. Roland, I have no regrets. You must live well. Don't let my heart go to waste. Aye, you're not allowed to sleep. I won't let anything happen to you. I found a heart source. You have to hold on. Shenhenji, are you abandoning me again? How can you be so cruel? Get up. Get up. Chin Roland's tears fell like rain, dripping on Shun Henji's face. Shenhenji looked at her affectionately, engraving her face in his soul. Chin Roland's face became more and more blurred, and the pain gradually disappeared. Shun Henji's smile froze on his lips, and he closed his eyes heavily. I'm sorry, Roland. I'm abandoning you again." Before closing his eyes, he heard Chin Ruolin's hysterical screams. By the time the ambulance arrived, Shinhenji's heart had already stopped beating. Chin Ruolin hugged Shinhenji's body, calling his name over and over. "Ei, get up quickly. If you abandon me one more time, I won't forgive you." Fireworks went off on time in the sky, like mournful cries. Chin Ruolin only felt her heart being cut with knives, and all the blood in her body converged in her chest. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of air. The roaring in her ears was constant, and she fell into a coma. "Ei, wait for me." Chin Ruolin woke up in the hospital, staring blankly at the ceiling. She subconsciously touched her chest, feeling a strong and powerful heartbeat, as if Shinhenji was right next to her. The door to the ward was pushed open, and Chu Wanru walked in. "You're awake. How do you feel?" Chu Wanru's eyes were red and swollen, and her face was full of sorrow. Chin Ruolin looked at the ceiling, and tears flowed uncontrollably. "Just a little bit more, and I could have found a heart source. Why didn't he wait for me?" Chu Wanru's expression froze, and she looked down at her. "Chin Ruolin, we all know very well that in such a short time, you couldn't find one." "No, it's because I didn't try hard enough." Chin Ruolin's eyes widened. Her eyes were red, and she shook her head desperately. "Ei, I'm sorry. Chu Wanru was silent. Chin Ruolin didn't move, her heart full of grief. She murmured softly, "Ei said he would always be with me. How could he bear to leave me? Perhaps she should go with him." She didn't want to live alone in a world without Shinhenji. He was so cruel, abandoning her again. "Ei, I'll come find you now, okay?" Chin Ruolin tore off the 4 drip on the back of her hand, staggered out of bed, and lurched toward the door. "Wanru, I'm leaving the company to you. I'm going to be with Ei. Ei will be scared alone. Calm down. Ei wouldn't want you to be like this. You should understand him." Chu Wanru held Chin Ruolin's flailing hands. "Chin Ruolin, he didn't even want you to see his face before he died. How would he want you to die with him? His remains have already been cremated. The funeral is tomorrow." Hearing this, Chin Ruolin instantly collapsed onto Chu Wanru. "He's my husband, and I haven't even seen him for the last time. What right do you have to cremate him?" Chu Wanru, Ei's last wish. Chin Ruolin broke away from Chu Wanru and staggered out, slipping on the floor and falling to the ground. The immense grief made it difficult for her to control herself. She lay on the ground, pounding the ground and wailing. Shinhenji wanted her to live well, but she couldn't live well without Shinhenji. The next day it started to rain lightly. Chu Wanru held a funeral for Shinhenji, following his instructions and hiring a professional funeral team to send him off. The desolate sound of the Swona echoed in the rain, accompanied by the mournful cries, resonating throughout the cemetery. Chin Ruolin didn't appear. The officiant urged Chu Wanru to bury him to avoid missing the auspicious time. Chu Wanru sighed softly and placed the ashes in the grave. "Ei, don't worry. I'll watch over Chin Ruolin for you and make sure she lives well." After the funeral, everyone dispersed. Chin Ruolin appeared at some point, standing in place, staring at Shinhenji's tombstone. Rainwater mixed with tears sliding down her cheeks. She murmured, "Ei, I'm sorry, I'm late." The rain grew heavier and heavier, but Chin Ruolin seemed oblivious. She stood until her legs were soft, but refused to leave, until her energy was completely depleted and she fainted on the ground. When she woke up again, the rain had already stopped. She was lying on the ground alone, with Shinhenji's tombstone in front of her. "Ei, I'll avenge you." Chin Ruolin's eyes suddenly turned cold, and she abruptly got up and rushed back to the villa's basement. At this time, Gu Yanxian was suspended in midair, hanging upside down. His face was a mix of blue and purple, and his body was covered in shallow and deep wounds. "Chin Ruolin, please let me go. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hurt Shinhenji. I won't dare to do it again." Gu Yanxian had lost several teeth and spoke with a lisp. "Send me to the hospital. I'm in so much pain." The wounds on his body had been inflicted by the people who kidnapped Shinhenji. They hadn't gotten the money, so they had kicked and punched him. Chin Ruolin's gaze was icy as she stood in front of him. She didn't say a word, scaring Gu Yinxian into trembling. Ruolin, let me go, for the sake of our relationship. We had a relationship, Qin Ruolin said coldly, and Gu Yinxian was so frightened that he immediately changed his words. No, we didn't have a relationship. He was just someone Qin Ruolin had found to stimulate Shenhenji. He had gotten too into the act and had Wang Xing'ed to become her husband. Qin Ruolin had only ever loved Shenhenji from beginning to end. Gu Yinxian, when people do something wrong, they should be punished. You killed Yi, so you should pay for his life. No, Qin Ruolin, you can't do this to me. Gu Yinxian shouted. Shenhenji was going to die anyway. I just helped him be free. Shut up, Qin Ruolin roared. Qin Ruolin, is he dead? Ha ha ha, Shen is dead. Are you living a life worse than death? He gave you his heart, but you hated him and humiliated him. How do you know? It's because you're too stupid. I knew it the first time he fainted. Qin Ruolin, you deserve it. Ha ha ha. Qin Ruolin's body shook violently. In a fit of rage, she turned around and grabbed his neck with both hands. Just as he was about to suffocate, Chu Wanru rushed in and pushed her away. Qin Ruolin, haven't you gone crazy enough? Are you going to let Yi's heart become a murderer along with you? Qin Ruolin belatedly realized what she was doing, took a step back sharply, and clutched her chest. Shenhenji's heart was still inside her. Wanru, I hate myself. Why couldn't I find a suitable heart in 10 days? Qin Ruolin knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face. In an instant, her voice hoarse. I thought, if I returned his heart to him, we could both live well. Qin Ruolin worked hard to develop her career and become wealthy, but she couldn't even save the person she loved. Yi didn't blame you. Chu Wanru sighed and forwarded to Qin Ruolin the text messages that Shenhenji had sent her. He knows everything you did. Chu Wanru untied Gu Yinxian and took him out. Yi said, he never regretted falling in love with you. Qin Ruolin looked at the text messages in her hand, crying like a child. Ruolin, there are some things I can't say to you face to face, so I can only have Wanru convey them for me. I know that you look for a heart source every day after lulling me to sleep. I know that you were injured for me, and I know that you beg people to save me from me. You've done everything you can do. I'd already thought of this outcome 5 years ago. It was my own choice. I hope that for the sake of the two of us, you will live well in this life. She clutched her chest, as if Shenhenji was by her side. Yi, I'm sorry. I've made you worry again. I promise you. Gu Yinxian regained his freedom and immediately went live, denouncing Qin Ruolin's evil deeds. She imprisoned me and tortured me, and even tried to strangle me. Brothers and sisters watching the live stream, please help me. At first, the viewers in the chat didn't believe him, thinking that he was resentful because he had been dumped. Gu Yinxian showed the wounds on his body and cried with added details, I'm just a powerless man. How would I dare to smear a big figure like Qin Ruolin? It's just that I really have no other choice. And that ex-husband, he always wanted to put me to death. He died of illness himself, but President Qin blamed it on me, wanting me to pay for his life. He successfully gained sympathy, and the chat was filled with accusations against Qin Ruolin. Some people even called the police, wanting to have Qin Ruolin punished by law. The day Qin Ruolin was taken away by the police, it caused a sensation throughout the city. In the face of the police interrogation, Qin Ruolin answered truthfully. The wounds on Gu Yinchuan's body were not inflicted by her. She was sentenced to 6 months in prison with a 1-year suspended sentence for illegal imprisonment. The Qin group was affected by this incident, and its stock price fell, causing Qin Ruolin to be at her wit's end. Faced with all kinds of difficulties, she didn't flinch. Shenhenji was walking out, the forced smile frozen on his face, trembling as he touched the scar on his chest. The edited videos, his self-harm, and the kidnapping and murder caused him to become an outcast. The direction of public opinion changed. Gu Yinxian was arrested, and he would pay the price for his crimes. Qin Ruolin stood in the crowd the day he was taken away. Looking at him, not looking like a human, not looking like a ghost, she touched her chest. Yi, the person who hurt you has received the punishment he deserves. Are you happy? Before leaving, Chu Wanru arranged to meet with Qin Ruolin and handed her the keys to the cottage. Yi said, remember to clean it when you have time. Chin Roland took the keys and smiled. Okay, when will you be back from this trip abroad? Chu Wanner looked out the window and took a deep breath. On Ayi's death anniversary. He likes us both to be with him. Chin Roland's heart trembled, and she clenched the keys tightly. Thinking back to when they were little, Shinhenji always liked to chase after them with lollipops, like a little tail. He would seriously call her his wife and call Chu Wanru Jiejie. When I grow up, I'm going to marry Chin Roland. If I bully Chin Roland, I'll let Wanru beat me up. Shinhenji's face appeared before her eyes, and Chin Roland couldn't help but smile. Okay, have a good trip. In the days without Shinhenji, Chin Roland continued to work hard to live. Chin Roland bought the small cottage in Haicheng and would take time out each month to go there. She built a grape trellis and a swing in the courtyard and learned to grow flowers and vegetables. Shinhenji had said that he wanted to build a small courtyard in Haicheng, growing flowers and vegetables. The flowers would be used for decoration, the vegetables would be used for food, and they would grow a lot of fruit. Chin Roland fulfilled all of his wishes. Spring passed and autumn came, and time flowed by. 7-year-old Chin Roland sat on the swing in the small courtyard in Haicheng, holding the wedding photo of her and Shinhenji in her arms, pressed tightly against the position of her heart. A sea breeze blew, and she curled up the corners of her mouth. Hey, you've finally come to pick me up,